this individual obviously works hard. I'm sure she incorporates these workouts to an extent, but there's also consideration that maybe she does other workouts or maybe does some additional resistance workouts on top of these workouts perhaps. There's also consideration of genetics. Genetically, are certain areas more developed than others? The next video you will see, I will be announcing the release of the TFNL Growth Guide, so the 19th of December. We've got over 70 pages of good source, we've got over 30 weeks of programming written for you, in addition to a programming template for you to create your own program if you want to, in addition to a full video exercise library, and so much more. Just wait, I'm excited. I'm a bit nervous, but I'm excited. It's going to be good, and I hope you really like it. Obviously, we're going to crack on with the video today. So Thursday, we're actually looking at somebody who's actually new to the channel, I believe. We're looking at Janekate Fitness, who is somebody who has actually been on the list for a little while, and this workout was actually brought up, I want to say about a month ago or so, in which we're looking at an explosive booty lift in 14 days on the floor. Booty lift, not thighs, no equipment. And immediately when somebody promises something almost like quite extreme and exciting, arguably, as an explosive booty lift, it's obviously got my attention, and we're going to talk about it because more often than not, these workouts often do tend to include pretty subpar and sometimes ineffective movements, unfortunately. But that being said, I'm hopeful for what's to come. But before we crack on the video, we're going to talk about the bits and bobs that need to be done. If at any point throughout this entire video you decide you like the video, or maybe even learn something from the video, then please let me know by liking the video, and potentially also by clicking the red button down below to subscribe to the channel, and maybe even by tickling that bell next to it so you get notified when I upload every week, twice a week. And if you have a question you want me to answer at the end of the next video, then please do consider dropping it down below in the comment section for comment question of the week, which is something I do at the end of every video, and I shall answer it. The Christmas headbands continue. I'm kind of torn because we've got 2 videos after Christmas and before the New Year starts, and I don't know if I should wear a Christmas headband in them because it's not going to be Christmas, but I kind of wanted to do this for December, so I'm kind of torn. We're full screening it now. There's nothing really exciting in the description that we need to look at, but we are going to look at this. Exercises 30 seconds non-stop. We've got 13 exercises. Going to be interesting. The glutes are essentially going to be a big driver of what's going to be keeping that leg up. I understand that it's an isometric hold where you're holding the muscle in one position for a period of time, but this leg kick and extension doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Leg curling and extension, when you're curling you're looking at, oh cat, hello cat. When you're curling, you're looking at the hamstrings. When you're extending, you're looking at the quads. The leg curling here is doing no additional work for the glutes because, again, the glutes do not cross at the knees. Therefore, extending and flexing the knee does not mean the glutes have to do anything to do so. It looks better than if you were just to maintain this position with a straight leg, to be honest, and I feel like that's largely why it's been incorporated, but I may be wrong. Straight leg kickbacks is something I often see. To be honest with you, it's going to be limited when you're at home. Obviously, you can include things like ankle weights, which are certainly cool because, again, it's additional resistance. If you're going to do anything, when doing a kickback of any sorts, I would typically actually, rather than kicking straight up and down, I would kind of come out about 30 to 45 degrees or so and kind of bring in more of the glute med, which will arguably, again, not saying it's the best movement, but it may make it a more effective alternative if you don't have access to a cable machine where you can do it standing, and if you maybe chuck on some weights of sorts or have some resistance as well. It just takes it from being not massively effective to slightly more effective just by altering the angle in which you're kicking back at, like I said, about 30 to 45 degrees. I would lean more towards 45 degrees personally. Similar sort of thing occurs here. It's a movement that I often see included in these kind of workouts, but it's a movement that I don't believe to be particularly effective. Ultimately, movements like this are really going to make the glutes feel like they're burning and they're hurting. And that's one of the downsides of these workouts that kind of come up with these big, bold promises in their title in a very limited time period with no additional bits and bobs like equipment and stuff like that. They often do include movements that I believe almost trick people or mask the ineffectiveness of these movements. And what I mean by that is, at the end of the day, some activity is better than no activity. I will always appreciate and I will always respect that. If you said to me, I'm going to do nothing or I'm going to do this, I say, you know what, do this, especially if you enjoy it. That's the big thing that people overlook when they look at training. Although I may say these movements may be ineffective, then maybe this or that, if you enjoy them and they are helping you achieve what you want to achieve, that's really one of the most important things to remember. But if you are looking at taking your training to the next level, like I was saying, a lot of these workouts do include movements that I typically deem to be largely ineffective because they're always movements that burn a lot and always movements that involve usually a relatively short range of motion, and also movements that involve a pretty significant amount of tension on the muscle, not necessarily in a positive sense, but more in the sense that there's little rest period between reps. It's always movements where you're holding the glutes in the position for, let's say, 30 seconds or so, which leads to a lot of burning. And And this is obviously, I say this a lot, just because you're hurting, it doesn't necessarily mean you're working it effectively. If I hold your arm up like this for a while, eventually it's really going to burn. Does that mean it's more effective for the delts than like a lateral raise or a shoulder press? Probably not, although it may actually hurt more. So again, there's not necessarily a correlation between how much something hurts and how effective it is. And like I was saying, a majority of these movements in these workouts do typically tend to be burn dominant movements that really hurt you, but doesn't necessarily mean they're doing a lot. And that's the thing to remember. What's the cat hunting? That's what I want to know. Is it a blade of grass? My cat does that. He fights and kills blades of grass. And sadly, he actually loses half the time. Oh, there we go. Oftentimes you see comments on videos like this where they say, you know, I had a really good workout. I was burning by the end of it. Again, that doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot. Obviously, it's nice to feel that burn. It's almost like a reward at times. I could put you through a horrendously painful workout that I would deem to be largely ineffective. And when I'm looking for an effective workout, what I'm kind of looking for are movements that allow you to progressively overload, movements that take you through an adequate and appropriate range of motion for the target musculature, and movements that aren't necessarily held back by other limiting factors. For example, other muscles but give you out before the target muscle gives out, your breathing give you out before the target muscle gives out, things along those lines. Again, not saying you need to tick all those boxes, they're just things that I really like to look at. And a lot of these movements don't tick a lot of those boxes because the range of motion usually is questionable. Sometimes it's okay, to be fair. The progressive overload ceiling is nearly non-existent, but there is a bit of room for progressive overload if you were to add maybe a band in there, perhaps, or maybe some ankle weights or something similar, which I acknowledge and respect that is some additional resistance, and I appreciate that. I'm here to tell you that this video is once again sponsored by the Ridge wallet. That's upside down. The Ridge wallet. And as I mentioned before, they were kind enough to not only send me the wallet, but also the flicky key thingy-majig that actually now has, wait for it, 2 keys in. I know, movie up in the world. And although they have sponsored the videos a few times, I wouldn't promote them on my channel if I didn't actually really like them, hence why I actually use their products. If I thought they were in the bin, they wouldn't be in this channel entirely because I'm not here to push nonsense to you. I'm a big fan of this sleek, small, functional and cool design. And also a big fan of the fact I can do this with my keys and sometimes hit myself in the knuckles when I do so, which actually kind of hurts. And they're actually currently running a deal where you get up to 40% off on the line until the 22nd of December if you go to ridge.com/TFNL. Christmas is around the corner. Well, I say Christmas is around the corner. It's literally next week. And you probably want to buy somebody, you probably maybe care about something that they might actually use because no one wants to get 15 different multi-packs of deodorant that they won't use and they'll leave in the cupboard for a long time. So if you are looking for something spicy to buy somebody you care about, have a gander at either the Funky Fresh Ridge wallet or the key case. And like I said, if you go to ridge.com/TFNL, you can save yourself up to 40% until the 22nd of December. So thanks again to the Ridge wallet for sponsoring this video, and now I shall let you crack on and tolerate my hopefully tolerable content. Things like the glute bridge, for example, so far this is the best movement we've seen. The thing is, I try and avoid lifting those toes up. You don't really need to. The big thing we look at here is obviously driving the weight through the middle of the foot so we're getting an even distribution of weight across the foot and keeping those shins vertical or as vertical as possible. That will prevent other muscles coming in and taking over from the glutes when reality is we really want to put a lot of emphasis or as much emphasis as possible on the glutes here. Single leg glute bridge I think is fine. I would probably avoid this kind of swinging here. I know it's minor, but you may be able to get some additional momentum to take you off that bottom portion with that leg swinging. So I keep that leg stable and just drive all that emphasis and force coming from the target side. So you're, like I said, you're getting no additional momentum or kind of a kickstart to get you moving. So you're essentially making the movement as hard as possible. Another thing you also notice, a lot of these movements you can see they're actually really slow and controlled. Slow down, so slow eccentric is good, but typically you actually want to be going quite fast up. Slowing down the concentric speed deliberately, so the way up deliberately, will likely yield more burning, but it may actually be deemed to be less effective. Time and attention is kind of largely in the bin for building muscle to an extent, when what we want is the involuntary slowing of the contraction velocity. When you're trying to drive your glutes up as hard as you can, you want to be trying really hard, but you want the rep to be slowing against your wishes because you're just fatiguing. That's what we're really looking for. I do get why some of these exercises have been chosen, because the reality is it's targeted as a glute only workout without any other lower body muscles getting involved, but the reality is you are always going to bring in some other lower body muscles to an extent. But I think in doing so, you actually really limit how effective this workout could be for the glutes, just for the sake of avoiding working the quads and hamstrings. So to be honest, I would almost restructure it, maybe do less exercises, more sets of those exercises, and prioritize the ones you can maybe put a bit more emphasis on when looking at progressive overload. So for example, I say the single leg glute bridge can stay. You can maybe look at a squat variation like a standard squat. You can maybe throw in a split squat as well. And immediately there, you've got 3 really effective movements that, although are going to target other lower body muscles, are probably going to target the glutes more effectively than this workout workout would, provided you are doing so with correct technique, going through an adequate range of motion, and hopefully adding resistance if you're able to. So although workouts like this are titled in a really appealing manner, and they almost imply that this individual has experienced or achieved these results or this shape purely from doing workouts like this, you can't necessarily take titles at face value. This individual obviously works hard. I'm sure she incorporates these workouts to an extent, but there's also consideration that maybe she does other workouts or maybe does some additional resistance workouts on top of these workouts perhaps. There's also consideration of genetics. Genetically, are certain areas more developed than others? So many things you got to question and ask yourself. And that is by no means discrediting this individual whatsoever. At the end of the day, I always say this, and I will always say this, if you get people active and you encourage them to live a healthy and hopefully happier lifestyle, not because they feel like they have to, but because they want to, then I will always respect it. My big concern is just a lot of false promises, arguably to an extent I would say wasted time, where individuals may experience better results doing different movements or different workouts, and also to an extent unrealistic expectations of what they can achieve from certain workouts. That's kind of the big take-home message from a lot of these types of workouts, unfortunately, because again, they do follow a very similar structure. They do promote a very similar message, and they are all titled in a very similar manner, which in fairness I do understand, especially with the titling side of things. YouTube clickbait, you need to clickbait on YouTube. It's how YouTube drives you to a new audience. I do it myself. I hold my hands up. I acknowledge that. I even mentioned that in the description of my videos. But again, I think there's a difference between clickbaiting and maybe promoting unrealistic expectations through that clickbaiting, when a simple disclaimer in the description, although not ideal because not a lot of people read the description, is better than nothing. But again, those are just my thoughts and opinions. But now we're actually going to crack on very quickly with comment question of the week. It's a quick one, but it's one that a few of you, I'm sure, are probably curious to know the answer to. What happened to the puppy? Will Truffle be making an appearance anytime soon? So the puppy is bloody large now. The puppy is grown. He was actually not meant to be this big. When we bought him, they said, oh, he's going to be a 20-kilo dog or something like that. He's like 30 kilos odd. He's quite a big boy, but he's an overgrown baby, and I absolutely love him. But he's still here. He's still healthy. He's still very happy. But obviously, I've moved out, and he lives with my mum. He's technically my mum's dog. So although I see him when I go visit at weekends, I don't have easy access to him to then feature him in a video, but I can certainly try and throw some pictures on screen if that would at least suffice for now. That is it. That is a video. Like I said at the start of the video, if you like the video or maybe even learnt something from the video, then please do consider liking the video and maybe even clicking the red button down below to subscribe to the channel, and also maybe tickling that bell next to it so you get notified when I upload every week, twice a week. And if you too have a question you want me to answer at the end of the next video, then please do consider dropping it down below in the comments section for comment question of the week, and I shall do so. Thank you for tolerating me. Thank you for tolerating the lack of puppy content, and thank you for tolerating the video.